I'm honored to present it today on this stage. And this is about the rise of smart mobility in the future. It's a very interesting topic. We just had a fire chat with Lutz and Steve, where like whether electric vehicles is the future or not. I think we need to concentrate or focus more on the smart mobility, what kind of smart mobility we need to adopt. We will see it in a minute. So, have you ever thought why does transportation matter? Why it is so important? So, if you see, the transport accounts for about 64% of global oil consumption, which is really a huge number, and 27% of all energy use, out of which the CO2 emissions from the surface transportation is 23%. So, worldwide, it's 23%, whereas in United States, it's more, it's higher, 29%, because the reliance on personal mode of transport is very high in United States, and whereas in California, it's much more higher, 41%, because there people are riding their own cars and using less of public mode of transport. So here the pie diagram is showing how much CO2 emissions are from different vehicles of transport. So as you can see, we all have been talking about the passenger cars, whereas as a diagram, this is from the statistics from the US, and it shows that, the passenger car is generating only 21% of the CO2 emissions, whereas the light duty and the medium and heavy duty truck are emitting actually 60% of the CO2 emission, which is high. And that's where I think it's a time for us to think about whether we have to focus on the passenger car or we need to focus on the delivery trucks. And rest of the modes of transport are generating less as compared to the bigger portion is coming from the passenger cars and the light duty and the medium and heavy duty trucks. So we need to probably focus more on the light duty and the medium duty. As well, if you see the bus is generating only 1%, imagine if we convert all the passenger car trips into the bus trips, then it's gonna reduce the CO2 emissions significantly. So this is quite interesting fact that the world population is expected to increase to 9.7 billion in 2050. What does that mean? It means that more number of as the population will increase, the transportation or the number of vehicles is also going to increase significantly. And what it will look like, it's going to have a huge congestion on the streets. And do we really want to get stuck in this traffic? I don't think so. So that's where, it's a time that we need to put an end to this kind of congestion, and we need to think about our future modes of sustainable transport. So if you look into this diagram, it shows if each and every individual is taking their own car, it's going to create a huge congestion on streets. Whereas if we take one bus, this is equivalent to so many cars, and it's going to reduce the amount of traffic significantly on streets. So, what does sustainable transport mean actually? Which sustainable transport could be in the form of a public transport such as metro, LRT, BRT. It could be anything in terms of which is basically reducing the CO2 emissions. And also, what is the future of sustainable transport? So, the future is low and zero emission vehicles, and then it's a shared mobility options, and then the third one is autonomous vehicles. So, what are the benefits of these sustainable modes of transport? So, when we say about the low and the zero emission vehicles, that means it will release less CO2 emissions, and which means less pollution, improve air quality. That means we'll have more of healthier communities. Second is the shared mobility. Again, if we are not taking individual cars and using the shared mobility options, that means it's a less embodied carbon related to vehicles. It will have less infrastructure, less roads, less parking, less noise pollution. Again, if we are using the shared mobility options, it is going to have healthier communities. And as you can see here, that if you take public transport, then it's going to reduce the CO2 emissions by 45% instead of if you are using a personal vehicle. And it is public transit is estimated to save 37 tons of CO2 annually. And the autonomous, why autonomous? Have you ever thought why people are switching to autonomous mode? Basically, it's inclusivity, and it's also the safety, and people can optimize their time if they are using the autonomous fleet. So here, if we look into these figures, which my colleagues were talking in the past session, basically to where we are right now in 2024, if we see like we are having 10 million or less than 10 million EVs per year. And this number is going to grow significantly, as shown in this graph, is that 60 million EVs per year will be produced. But again, is EVs is the real future? It's a debatable, and we already had the debate. But I think yes, we still have to like switch to the from fossil fuels to the EV vehicles or a less or zero emission vehicles. The point is, where do we have to maintain that balance? Because EVs are also finally generating CO2, but at somewhere else, where because we have to produce more power for that. So this graph is showing like by 2030, the shared mobility will increase from 120 where we are to 450 and 860, because that's how we'll have less number of cars on streets. And it's like 500 billion to 1 trillion. That's a huge number, and I think that's where we are aiming for the shared mobility. So what are the challenges which we have to overcome? First of all is the economics part of the we need to spend huge amount of money on these new mode of transport. Then comes the regulations. The third is the technology. Fourth is the materials or the resources. So as you can see over here, the self-driving car research has cost mil, $16 billion. It's not even million, it's a $16 billion. That's huge amount of investment which the government has to invest in these autonomous vehicles. And then the second one is the regulatory. So regulations. So regulations, because we don't know right now if we are switching to autonomous modes of transport, then the regulations is still a big challenge. All across the globe, all the authorities are working on to improvise on the regulations, because it's a new technology. They have to bring up the new regulations. We don't know if anyone meets with an accident or so, like who is responsible for it. So that's another challenge. So again, materials or resources, there aren't enough batteries to electrify all cars. That's where the pie diagram, which we had seen in the previous slide, it was showing 60% of it is coming from the for the service delivery trucks. And that's where I think we need to focus on trucks and buses instead of the private cars. So where we are in UAE, so UAE has already set up a global smart mobility hub where we are testing new technologies. So if you see Abu Dhabi, we had tested the Abu High Speed Trams, which are like ART, which is running on the Abu Dhabi island. Then we have also the robo taxis and robo buses, which has a capability to mingle up with the standard traffic. So that's where we are going one step ahead in terms of testing the autonomous technology. So what do we have done in Mazda City? Since we have already seen like, okay, what is the smart or future sustainable transportation? How we have integrated all these approaches in our Mazda City transportation planning. We had carefully designed and planned for our land uses. We had put up the land uses in such a way so that it's a live, work, play environment and it's in the close proximity. The second one is about the road network and public transport. The entire master plan has been designed in such a way so that it's easily accessible by the public transport by having a 350-meter of catchment from each neighborhood cluster. And then walking and cycling. This is very important for any master plan or for any city, because the walking and cycling, we had to come up with the hierarchy. We had to develop the city in such a way so that it creates a pedestrian prioritized environment. And then the accessibility and the parking also we had studied in our master plan. So, what was our strategy? Our strategy, basically, in any traditional city in UAE, it was more reliant on car. The reason was because it's very hot in summers over here, and that's where the dependence on car was very, very heavy. And the least preference was given to the walking and the cycling. But in Mazda City, what have we achieved or what have we done? The strategy behind that was give less preference to the cars and more preference to the walking and the cycling. So this is our master plan. So what have we achieved in this? we had connected the services from the Abu Dhabi citywide transit for metro, LRT, and the buses. And whereas for our own internal Mazda City Transit, we have our GRT, which is the black dotted line. As you can see, all the neighborhoods were surrounded around the Mazda City Center in the center area. And all these neighborhoods are connected by our internal Mazda City Transit. And then we do have our autonomous vehicles as well, which can fly on this black circuit. However, our master plan is not a frozen master plan. We have been consistently working on this master plan based on the technologies which are upcoming in the market. So, what have we done for our internal transit network? We have come up with the curbside management strategy, which is now you don't require a dedicated lane. It's now we have switched to the curbside management strategy, which means now the autonomous vehicles, as they have been advancing, they can mix with the traffic. You don't require any additional lane for these vehicles. So, and then what are our highlights? We have the zero emission vehicles, and then inclusive, we provide the electric vehicles which takes you around the Mazda city from point to point, and this service is free for all. And the accessibility, so all these neighborhoods are connected within 100 meters by a Mazda city internal public transit. And then we also have worked along with our ITC. One of our colleague is here from ITC. We have been working very closely with the ITC. Where are our major attraction points within Mazda city, and how we can serve the entire Mazda city with the micro mobility or the e-scooters, as well as with the bike sharing. And the as I spoke earlier about the pedestrian and the cycling network, we had a very detailed or intensive cycling network. We had the dedicated cycle tracks 3 meters, somewhere around or 4 meters as well, all along our 2 by 2 lanes. As well, we do have the dedicated cycle tracks which are passing through the city, through the open spaces and the green fingers. And then there are another apps also which are like vehicle sharing programs. We had tied up with the e-car, which is a vehicle sharing app. And we do have the Teslas running within the city and scooters and the bikes as well. So this is just to give a flavor what kind of technologies we have been testing within Mazda City. We have been testing all this autonomous transportation within from 15 years ago. As you can see, that was our phase one, which is a PRT that's running under in the undercroft in a dedicated environment. Then we switched to the PRT 2.0, which is our Navia, which had a capability to mix with the pedestrians as well as to mix with the service delivery vehicles. And then we do have this is our e-car vehicle, and then the topmost vehicle is the 100% electric bus, which we had worked along with ITC to test these electric buses in this hot weather. As I said, this was our phase one vehicle. It's still operational. This is our phase two vehicle. And now we are working along with ITC for our PRT 3.0 or the generation vehicle, because when we had launched these services, we were the first ones. But now, since ITC is working along with, we are collaborating with ITC. No need for our spending too much of investment, and we can always work along with the government for that. And these are the walkable communities. How we can actually achieve these walkable communities by adopting the passive design strategies. So what's next actually? These are the zero emission vehicles. We had partnered with EDNOC. This was the first EV charging hub which was announced in UAE. And then this left image is showing the high speed green hydrogen refueling station H2Go, which is also present in Mazda city. And then the last year, beginning of this year, we had also announced the Savi cluster, which is basically home to transfer the landscape of smart and autonomous vehicle across air, land, and sea. So what all we need. So this is all about smart and autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles or zero emission vehicles. That's all those different modes of sustainable modes of transport we had integrated in Mazda City. Thank you. Anyone has any questions? Yes. Yeah.
Hello, thank you so much. I think there's a lot of learnings you can have on inverting the triangle with Mazda being a relatively greenfield city. But it's my first time in Abu Dhabi, and I was very surprised yesterday when I went somewhere that was 5 minutes drive, but an hour and a half walk. So, what learnings can Mazda have to share with cities that already exist? And is from ITC, right? Our colleague here can probably answer as well. So, what can other cities learn from Mazda?
So from Mazda, as I said, how we are inverting the transport pyramid is basically right from the planning stage. So how the communities needs to be designed. So we have come up with a 5 minute walking city. So as you saw that, there are neighborhoods which are at a 500 meter everywhere the neighborhoods apply because we are a 6 square kilometer city. And right from the designing, we have considered the urban design principles how we can make the livable and a walkable city, number one. And number two, even if it is not a walking distance, then we have our internal Mazda transit system, which connects the various neighborhoods. And then if you're coming from outside of Mazda city, we are still connected with the public transport, which is served by ITC. So these are the lessons learned from.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I would want to focus was is there not only the walking but the micro mobility modes are quite now prevalent in Abu Dhabi. If you see, yes, so that way you might have noticed there are e-bikes and e-scooters. Yes, yes. So that kind of technology because it's a cheap technology and safe as well. So we have ITC and DMAT have already have the standards for these ones, and we are providing more and more safe infrastructure how we can integrate this with the public transportation. We need to provide them the safe crossing facilities to them. Yeah, so because obviously as Asha said that during the hot weather you have a limitation of how much you can walk, but you would see the public realm what we provide in Abu Dhabi, that is also a great example for other cities to follow. You have shaded areas, then when not only walking but cycling, depending on the right of way limitation, we provide either you have the specific cycle lanes and walking lanes or you have a shade facilities as well. So and in future also we are investing a lot on the micromobility and the walking and cycling infrastructure. Yes, so slowly and then definitely there are autonomous vehicle coming, electric vehicles, so we are moving away, from those fossil fuels.
So I think even as my colleague Hitesh said, the ITC has developed the Qarar regulations, which is for the micro mobility. And even though the regulation says you can ride these e-scooters for 20 kilometers or less on a public street, but however in Mazda city we do not encourage to do that due to safety reasons. Because we have the dedicated cycle tracks all along our streets and we are encouraging users to ride those e-scooters on that, and it's very well connected network, and there are shortcuts which are passing through the green fingers and the open spaces. Yes, so you don't have to loop around all the way to go from point A to point B. You can actually take the shortcuts, which is very convenient, and these are shaded walkways. If you see, our grid is actually oriented. We do a lot of solar studies also while even designing individual plot. So that's where the solar studies, because how the sun is moving, so you have less basically heat effect. So we had presented yesterday when we had some statistics for the micro mobility as well. You can see this service was launched in December 22, and as the summer was approaching, the graph started declining. But otherwise during winter time or during good weather, the number was quite high within Mazda city also. And the good part is you can actually take these scooters from one development to another development. If you take a e-scooter from Mazda city, you can actually ride it to Khalifa city also, which is our adjacent development. So it's a very well connected network.
One more point I want to focus. See, for example, coming back from my experience working in UK in 2006 to 2012, there during the planning stage, when we plan any development, then there used to be a focus of travel plans. So, for example, you need to walk a lot. They are providing the showers, even walking to work, or if you move to any development, say Mazda City or any tower, when you enter a residential area, they used to have a travel plan to focus what are the walking routes around the area. Now in Abu Dhabi, what we are doing, this focus, if you see from last 10 years in our transport impact studies, during the concept planning stage as well, has been a lot of focus. So the developers, the consultants, they have to prove any new development they are doing, whether it's a mall, whether it's a residential, any kind of development, they have to prove that what kind of the provisions they are providing for the microvotes and the walking. So we are not neglecting, it's like starting from the concept planning stage, then we will go to the detailed design stage, and then we will monitor it in once it's implementing to see whether it has been implemented. Then if they're not implementing, then they will be fined, or we have to do mitigation measures. So that change in culture we can see in Abu Dhabi. Yeah.
All right. I think we are on top of the hour, so I would like to close the session here. Thank you everyone for listening.